What's up, hockey fans, and welcome back to the Good Goal Podcast. This is episode 43. I'm Christian Brady in Foxborough, Massachusetts, and there is Matt Tiart, who is traveling back in time as it is 10:27 a.m. in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona, to be exact.
Repping the Tucson Roadrunners out here. I had my Caps jersey on before we started, and I said, well, the season's over for us, so I'm going to throw on the Suns jersey. Hopefully send LeBron packing in Game 6 tonight. So
yeah, do the world a favor, and let's all will that to happen.
Amen, because he left the bench like 6 minutes left in the game while Chris Paul has like a broken shoulder and he's helped coaching. Like, which one's a true leader?
Exactly, yep.
I want to point out before we start, Christian, your hat is just absolutely legendary.
So I'm having this crisis because as it stands, it's very easy to root for the Kraken before they steal probably one of my favorite players, because that's just an inevitable thing that's going to happen. We'll wait to see what the protective lists are, but it's going to be tough to wear this hat when the Kraken are like legitimately a team that we have to play against sometimes, you know? So we'll see.
That's how I felt with Vegas because, one, professional sports in Vegas was just so electric.
Yeah.
But the Vegas shooting happened like a week before their first game. So not only were hockey fans rooting for Vegas, like the entire country was rooting for Vegas, kind of the same way they did after the Boston Marathon. So
right. And then you had to cheer against them in the finals.
Yeah, like I picked them as like my second team. Right. And I was like, if we play them in the finals, and then we ended up doing that. So
you had to cheer against what would have been one of the coolest stories.
Yeah,
in the history of the National Hockey League, but
in the history of sports,
Ovi got his cup though, so that's good too.
That's true. Like, had we lost, honestly, that probably was
the Kings like won their fourth in 5 years. It's like nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, honestly,
like
that's best case scenario. Had we lost the Stanley Cup Finals, it's like
right.
you have to root for them. This is so cool.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about suspensions.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, let's get into it because Mark Scheifele knocked Jake Evans out in Game 1 in Montreal. To Montreal in Winnipeg. It was an odd scene because they have like, maybe 1,000 people in that arena. It's a very limited amount of fans. So it was just silent, deafening. It's the second, of two like severe knockouts that we've seen in the playoffs, and both have involved Montreal. The first was Toronto's, I can't remember who it was, John Tavares.
Yeah.
And it's just, for whatever reason, those are the two games that produced those big hits and concussions, which you never like to see. But it is an eerie scene when it's just all like super silent in there.
It's so different because hockey players have this aura of being like really tough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at pictures of Bobby Clark, he has no teeth. But when a guy's getting stretchered off the ice, it's a different feel. It's so different.
Yeah.
Then this guy's hurt and he's like skating on his own will, but he's got like a broken rib or something. The hit's so controversial to me because if he's not hurt, it's a clean hit.
That's not even close, yeah.
So it's like, where's the line of it's a clean hit, like contingent on how the other player is?
Mm-hmm.
Like what? I don't know. And that's where it gets tricky for me. Like obviously I want to see him. I want to see him recover. I want to see him back in the series. But if it's a clean hit, it's a clean hit.
Yeah, the guy's head barely grazed the ice. And he still ended up with a concussion. So it's like he had to be knocked out from Mark Scheifele's shoulder/elbow. However, he did not stride like right before he hit him. It's not a charge. As fast as he was going, it's not a charge because he stopped his skating like at the top of the circles. Evans was going the other way, tucking in a goal. They're just coming together, whereas most hits are like they're going the same way. It's just such a difficult because like the guy gets knocked out and it's at the end of the game and Scheifele's obviously working off some frustration on this hit. as he just saw his team lose game one, their first loss of the playoffs, which I'm sure is tougher to take than most. So yeah, it's like it's an unnecessary hit. He's taking off a lot of steam probably, but also like if he, like you said, if Evans gets up, that's like a perfectly normal hockey play.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to talk about is Nikolai Ehlers hops into the scrum that happened afterwards and actually shielded off everybody.
Give him the
falling
Conn
onto
Smythe.
The injured Evans, which is an awesome.
Dude,
Awesome,
he's on the other team.
picture.
Like, who cares about
Yeah.
I'm not saying this in general, but I'm saying, like, if I'm on Winnipeg, who cares about this guy who's on the ice? Like, he's on
He
Montreal.
just lost game one. Yeah.
Yeah. But for him to see the scrum is moving towards a down player and to shield it like Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2 with the train.
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty cool to see. And he's definitely getting a lot of recognition for that on Twitter. So
He is
if you don't see what we're talking about, go check out Twitter. And another the last point I want to say on this is the hit was completely unnecessary. While it was clean, it really wasn't. Let him tuck in the goal, get to the locker room, regroup for game two. You don't need to lay a body with 20 seconds left and you've already lost the game.
Right. I'm on the surface. You see the hit. Like I was watching it live and I saw it and I was like, this is like, he has to be suspended. But then this morning I'm scrolling Twitter and I'm seeing all these like closed up slow-mo videos. And I'm like, it's not a charge like I thought. It's not an elbow like I thought. It's not head as the principal point of contact. So like, how do you suspend the guy?
And the puck's there. It's not like it's interference. He's
right. Though we have seen in the past, like they can suspend a guy for being reckless. Like they use that as a reason in some of their.
Well, that's this. So.
Which this is exactly what that is. It's a perfect way to describe it: is reckless, unnecessary. So I will be shocked if Scheifele doesn't get a game. My guess is 2 or 3 right now.
Dude, that's huge. He's our best center
player, a great player who's never had any trouble with this. So it's hard to like. I mean, people are obviously Canadians are very emotional about their hockey, and that's not to say that I'm not either. I'm emotional about my hockey too. If I saw a guy get knocked out, I'd be emotional. I want to suspend it. Like what happened earlier in the year.
The country shuts down when 2 Canadian teams play each other.
Did you see that tweet that I retweeted? It was the best tweet I've ever seen. It was Game 7 of Montreal Toronto, and someone tweeted, "Please hold your calls to Canada until 10 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for your interest in Canada." Because the whole country shut down to watch Game 7 of the 2 most storied franchises in Canadian sports. But yeah, people are calling for Scheifele's head. Like the guy is so clean. He's never had a history of this. He was frustrated in the moment. He made an otherwise clean hit, but in a bad situation. So
that's something to throw into the mix is that the Department of Player Safety might be like, look, we're going to fine you, but we know this isn't the type of player you are. Whereas Tom Wilson or Marchand literally suspended all of next year.
That's an interesting thing that we haven't talked about. The CBA only allows a fine of $5,000 if there's no suspension, which I actually think works in the opposite direction that they want it to. Obviously, they're trying to save players' money by the Players Association arguing for that. But what I think it does is $5,000 is not that hefty a fine for National Hockey League players. They just throw this out willy-nilly. So, like, they'll give you a fine for anything. However, they can't give you any more than that. The difference between a $5,000 fine and a 1-game suspension in the playoffs is so broad and ridiculous that they have to suspend a guy for something like this, right? If you fine a $5,000 after guys are getting fined for net front battles for stuff like this, like, how do you do that?
That's such a good point because literally, say you get suspended 1 game, but that game is Game 7. Like you're talking about millions of dollars for a franchise. Especially if you're a player like Mark Scheifele, who is their number 1 center, who is their quarterback on the power play.
There's an impact on every single play.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be interesting.
If they allowed like $100,000 fines, or maybe that's too much, but 10 grand, 15 grand, then they'd probably save that for stuff like this, where it's kind of on the border of being a suspension. Whereas I've never seen a fine less than $5,000. So it's either like you get fined $5 grand or you're out for a playoff game.
Well, it even says like maximum fine of $5 grand. It's like
and they get that for everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can argue this another time, but I think we're on the same page. The Department of Player Safety might be one of the most inconsistent entities in sports, because Ryan Reeves literally curb stomped Ryan Suter into the post. He got nothing. Yeah. And then he got suspended 2 games for cross-checking Grubauer and like pushing Ryan Graves into the ice. I thought the hit on Suter was worse.
And we haven't talked about this.
Had they done their due diligence the first time, or the past 5 years he's been in the league, So anyway,
I can't remember if it was game 3, 4, or 5 where Kevin Miller got knocked out. When you go and look back, it wasn't that dirty a hit. His head hit the ice, whatever. So they downgrade the penalty. He doesn't get a major. Later in the game, Anthony Mantha gets called for goalie interference. And that is the fine that comes out of the game. It's like it didn't make any sense. Mantha did not deserve to even sniff a hearing or a fine or anything for that goalie interference. However, Orlov knocked the guy out and he gets nothing. I'm not saying he should have got something. What I am saying,
I get what you're saying.
Like, but they're giving what's the point?
It's almost like they're throwing penalties into a hat and saying, all right, this is the fine, we're going.
It's like, all right, we're only going to find one guy from this game. So why don't we just
Yeah. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because they've been so inconsistent.
We'll see. My guess is 2 games right now.
If Montreal can win game 2 in Winnipeg,
that's huge.
That's so big. Anyway, all right, let's get off the Department of Player Safety before I pop a vein in my neck.
Though, Matt, I don't think we talked about Nazim Cadre on this podcast yet, did we?
Kick him out of the league. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, he got suspended for the 3rd time in 4 straight years in the first round of the playoffs. He gets 8 games for a nasty hit. I forget who it was, but nasty hit. I wish we didn't have to see him again, but we're going to, because they definitely will win this season.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he's going to win the cup, which is sickening.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that Colorado team. It stinks because
except for him,
their style of play is so swag. It's such so a thing of beauty to watch.
Yeah.
And then you have a guy like Kadri, who everyone hates, and he's just he really doesn't fit in with them.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Anyway, Department of Player Safety, you suck.
Hire us. We can help.
Yeah. Or just shut down our podcast.
Pay us something modest, like $650,000 a year, and we can help figure it out for you.
Or shut down our podcast like you tried to do with the Rangers when they spoke out against you. So,
right. Okay. Buffalo wins the draft lottery. They will have their 2nd first overall pick in 3 years. I believe it's their 3rd in the history of their franchise. That could be wrong. But Seattle picks 2nd. That's their first draft pick ever. Not too shabby. And their expansion draft will be in July after the season.
So who was it Darlene was the first overall when Buffalo had it?
I think you're right.
Yeah. That feels like way longer than 3 years ago, but and then Seattle's picking second. What's crazy is imagine if this was 2015 and it was McDavid and then Matthews, Seattle gets a Matthews type guy.
Yeah.
Or Eichel.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know too much. Even though I watched the World Juniors, I don't know who really is going to go. It's tough because most of the guys in the World Juniors have already been drafted. Yeah. That's what makes the NHL draft so weird. It's are you getting a guy who held out, who re-entered the draft or something like Lafreniere, who's going to make an impact immediately? Or are you using your first overall pick on someone who hasn't entered juniors yet? He's 17 years old,
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. And we're definitely going to talk about that more when the season's over.
For sure. And there'll be more hype around that, and we'll probably get familiar with the guys as it's shoved into our mouth on hockey Twitter.
So I'm not really as excited. I mean, of course I'm excited because it's hockey, but I'm way more excited about who Seattle's going to take than the NHL draft.
Yeah.
So, which is 2 days before the NHL draft, the expansion draft, July 21st. So, man, I'm excited.
Every game I watch on NBC, Matt, makes me more jealous that they get to hog John Forsland in every game for next year. It's just crazy how good he is at his job.
Yeah, and then you watch Kenny Albert last night, and you're like, God, get this guy off TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, if you're watching the game tonight, just please, and I do. Obviously, I do play-by-play. You're gonna do it next fall.
Yep.
We're not professionals by any means, but you can tell, like, when you hear a guy's voice, you're like, oh, this is gonna be awful. Just listen to the Islanders radio guy for about 5 minutes, and you might want to jump off a bridge. So just
really
throwing that out. He's so bad, dude. Listen to it. Yeah, listen to it tonight when you just want to punch a wall or something. Just
all right.
Anyway, all right, let's get to the playoffs.
Yeah, let's talk about round one, which has concluded since the last time we were on this podcast. We'll start with the last series to end. That's Toronto versus Montreal, the series that captivated the nation. And Toronto, in typical fashion, blew a 3-1 series lead. Montreal wins it in Game 7. I mean, what a monumental collapse for a team that, despite the amount of talent they have, I think absolutely has to break it down this offseason. Because we talked about how much cap hell they're in. They might have to tear everything down. I don't know what they do at this point. You can't lose in the first round when you're paying that many guys that much money.
Do you have our picks from the first round up? Because I just want to beat myself up today. So
I will pull it up right now.
All right. And I'm going to look up because I saw a stat last time Toronto won first round playoff series. It was like in the 90s.
They've lost 8 consecutive elimination games. That stat I do know off the top of my head because it's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Toronto hasn't won a playoff series. They have not won a series clinching game since 2004.
I was 3 years old.
I mean, oh my God. You're talking about where the Hockey Hall of Fame is.
Yeah.
And they had 3 games to clinch.
It's unbelievable.
Oh my God.
It's
this
unreal.
is and it's funny because Stephen A. Smith knows nothing about hockey, and he went off on the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's calling them like the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL. Growing up a Cowboys fan, whatever. But it's true. It's true. They haven't won a cup since '67. I mean, yeah, I don't know. They have the highest paid player in NHL history. They have who was knocked out this series. So he gets a little bit of a pass, but he's been underwhelming since he signed that contract. They have the Rocket Richard winning goal scorer, and he can't score a single goal when it matters. They are in bad shape. And the GM said today he wants to keep Marner. So they're not trading Matthews, and they're definitely not trading Tavares because they can't. No one's going to take $15 million for a $6 million player. And
for a second-line player, yeah.
If they're not going to trade Marner, then who are they going to trade? Because they have no defenseman on contract. Frederick Anderson's a bum. Yeah. Speaking of people hiring us, Toronto, hire us.
Yeah. I mean, what do you have to lose? A playoff series? You do that anyways.
Look, we'll go out to Tavares and say, look, you got to retire so we can take your contract off the books.
We picked
we'll give him a Bobby Bonilla type contract.
Yeah, right. I picked Toronto in 5. You picked Toronto in 6. So a week ago, both our picks looked pretty good. They're up 3-1. We're like, we got it.
That's a joke. I mean, we knew Carey Price was going to steal some games, but to steal the series, which he did, he stole the series.
I distinctly remember both of us saying, I really want to say Montreal wins this because Toronto just always loses. But, this has to be the year that they win. They look so good.
Carey Price, I mean, if you think that guy is slowed down, you're wrong.
You're crazy.
You're wrong.
It's amazing. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the series that is really embarrassing. Edmonton versus Winnipeg. I said, and I'm going to call myself out. I said Winnipeg wasn't capable of winning a cup. I said that. And they swept the Oilers. They held McDavid to 2 points all series.
Yeah.
Swept them. Embarrassed them. Didn't you pick Winnipeg to win?
I picked Edmonton at 7, which felt like a Winnipeg win because Edmonton
and you said that because of Connor Hellebuyck. Who
might as well have stole all 3 of these games. They were close games.
I I mean, he played lights out, but the credit has to go to Winnipeg's defense for just absolutely shutting down the best two players in the league. Which they are.
A lot of chatter of Edmonton, figure it out for McDavid, you're wasting him. Agreed. We've been saying that. However, eventually you got to look at McDavid and Draisaitl and say the teams that win the cup or even win series, it's because their best players are their best players in the playoffs. And that wasn't the case. Draisaitl played fine. McDavid played poorly.
I'm gonna throw you a comparison, and it's insane how much it makes sense.
Okay.
And it's frustrating because as soon as I said that, I lost the guy's name in my head. I'm gonna pull it up.
Stand by for Matt's comparison.
Yeah. My brain just literally went dead. All right, I got it.
I do that all the time.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Connor McDavid is Clayton Kershaw.
Ooh, good one.
Okay. He might be the greatest regular season player in the history of the sport. But he can't perform in the playoffs. We've seen it. We've built up so much hype about playoff McDavid, and he's just non-existent. I give Kershaw a pass because Houston stole signs against him in 2018. But even before that, he's had this rap of he's the greatest pitcher that's ever played the game in the regular season.
I like that.
McDavid is that. He scored 100 points in 50 games this year.
I say Edmonton doesn't protect him, and he gets to start a new franchise with Seattle.
Absolutely no way they're not going to do it. Because they did it once. They traded Gretzky, and people burned the city to the ground. Imagine. People of Edmonton will build a nuke and nuke the city themselves if they trade. If they let McDavid go.
They should burn the city down every year anniversary from that trade.
Absolutely.
They should still be mad about that.
It's the worst trade in the history of the world. Not just sports. Like, you think France got fleeced for the Louisiana Purchase? Edmonton got fleeced. And they did it to themselves.
Yep.
Throw a little history at you. Anyway.
All right, nice. Okay, let's get into the third series. We're going out to the West. Colorado versus St. Louis. The most decisive series of the playoffs so far. Colorado sweeps St. Louis. I don't remember any of the games being close. It was just a romping.
Which we knew it was going to be. Yeah. Colorado's the best team in the league. Well, we'll get to that argument later, but they're one of the best two teams in the league. They won the President's Trophy. We knew this was going to happen. And it's funny because some of the St. Louis players were like, they're just not that much better than us. They are.
O'Reilly said, yeah, they're a good team, but we match up well. We're going to beat them.
Yeah. It's kind of like South Carolina against Clemson. When we beat them by 49, they were like, the margin's just really close.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have like the best college quarterback that's ever played, and you have Ryan Helinski, who just traded. Or just
By the way, number 2 is coming right up. Second best college quarterback of all time.
Yeah, and the guy who's going to overstep both of them is visiting Clemson in the fall, Arch Manning.
That's right. Isn't he between Clemson and Tennessee and Ole Miss?
Clemson, Tennessee, and Bama. Those are his top 3, what I heard.
Yeah, not Ole Miss. He's not following the footsteps of Uncle Eli.
Who does? Ole Miss is a joke. Anyway, hockey, Colorado, best team in the league. I think I picked them to win the cup to start the year, so I'm happy. But.
Yep, we'll get back to them. Okay, let's talk about the best series of the playoffs so far. Vegas versus Minnesota. Minnesota surprised a lot by hanging on in this series until Game 7, but Vegas wins Game 7 5-2, I want to say. It was a great series. Fleury looked like the Vezina candidate he is, which, by the way, he's officially a nominee.
Yeah,
we'll get to the awards once they're all announced in a couple weeks. But yeah, Fleury looks so good, and then whatever, we'll get to it after this. But Minnesota deserves a lot of credit for the way they played.
They aren't getting enough credit for how well they played, and that's from us included. It's crazy to think that we were sitting in the library at Cooper, like literally a year and a half ago, and Minnesota was just fire sailing players, like to build for the next coming years. Well, they're here. I mean, they're they were one game away from the second round in a really tough division with Vegas and Colorado. So Minnesota is going to be just fine, and I'm actually excited to see what the future holds for them. But
Me too.
you're not going to beat a team that has Marc-Andre Fleury when he's playing at his best, because he's a top 5 goalie of all time.
How about when he's playing, Matt?
What?
Either way. All right. Let's get to Carolina versus Nashville. We'll talk about that later. Carolina versus Nashville. Carolina wins in 6 games. Nashville won both games at home. Kind of made this a series. Or maybe they won games 3 and 5. Riley, shut up. Sorry, that's my dog. Good series, though.
Riley, like Riley Nash?
More like Mike Riley.
Okay.
Even though it's spelled differently.
So it is spelled like Riley Nash. Former Bruin.
Yes, that's right.
Anyway.
This is a good, not great series. I thought after games 1 and 2 that it was wraps. But Carolina rolled after game 4. So basically at home, Carolina looked like Carolina, and in Nashville looked like Nashville. You know, it's Smashville. You don't go into Nashville in front of a full crowd and just roll
come out. Yeah. I'm gonna include the next series into my response to this series. Next series, Florida, Tampa 1 and 6. Watching both of these series after the fact, like in retrospect, I'm thinking Carolina's gonna roll Tampa, right? Because Tampa struggled with Florida.
Yeah.
Obviously, hindsight's 50-50, and we're 2 games into the Carolina-Tampa series. But that's my response to that is Nashville stole some games, but Carolina was the way better team. Whereas in the Tampa-Florida series, I thought Florida might have a shot because they just kept coming back. Every time Tampa would get a 2-goal lead, they would tie it. So, yeah, that's my response.
Yep. So we got into that. Tampa wins in 6 games. It looked real good in the games they won, which I know is a weird thing to say. But, yeah, you're right. They did struggle with Florida. Didn't get past them as cleanly as maybe some people thought.
They have an all-star team. They should have won in 4. But.
Right. Kucherov was clicking right away, though he did get hurt. So we'll see how that bodes for him in the future. Pittsburgh versus New York. The Islanders win in 6 games despite being the far less talented team. I think even they would admit that. But Jara just didn't have a good series.
Which we knew was going to happen.
The tandem of Sorokin and Varlamov had a very good series. And then the Islanders, of course, just Barry Trotz Pittsburgh to death. Played defense. Took advantage of their opportunities. Got outshot almost 2-1 total in the series.
Yeah.
Yet still
Which is how the Islanders
4
play.
out of 6 game. And that's exactly how they win. So must have been frustrating to be Pittsburgh watching your team actually look very good through 6 games and only win 2 of them.
I thought it was awesome. Screw Pittsburgh.
It was a good series.
But it's so weird because Sorokin plays horrible. They start Varlamov. Varlamov won every game he played in that series. And then game 1 against Boston, they're like, all right, Sorokin, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't understand why this 2-goalie – Varlamov is clearly the better goalie on this team.
Yeah, I don't get it either. We'll see who plays tonight. I think it's got to be Varlamov. He's the winning goalie.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we talk about Bruins Islanders, let's talk about Bruins Caps. Bruins winning 5 through 3 games. This was set to be the greatest playoff series of all time. There were 3 overtime games. The Bruins led 2-1. And then we expected a Capitals response that didn't really come until like the 3rd period of game 5. I mean, I know they were banged up, but you're just watching that series, expecting the Capitals to dominate it. No
one wanted to be there.
It did seem like that.
Which is so frustrating.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating for Ovi. Because he wants another cup, but there's literally no effort on this team. Which is crazy to me because Laviolette is such a disciplined coach. Like, he usually doesn't take less than 100%. Anyway, congrats to Bruins. Gentleman's sweep. Completely dominated us from the start of overtime in game 3 to the rest of the series.
Right. Yeah, it was like that.
So
shots in the in the 2 or the 1.5 overtimes of game 3, the
Like
shots
12
were
to 2.
like 12-2, something like that.
Yeah.
And then it ends on a deflating goal for Samsonov, who actually deserves credit. He actually played well.
He stepped in
let
game
a
3,
few wispy goals, but he played well.
he played insane, and then
Yeah.
miscommunications between him and Schultz. Ovi was like trash talking him in Russian after the
In
game.
Russian, yeah.
You're not going to start 3 different goalies in the playoffs and expect to win a series.
Right.
You're just not. And it's frustrating because we let Holtby go for the same amount of money we didn't want to offer him. And Grubauer, we also let go, and he's a Vezina finalist. So, like, whatever. We'll talk about it in the offseason. Congrats on the win. I still love my team, but I'm pissed. So,
yeah, I think that's an appropriate reaction from a Caps fan. All right, let's get into round 2. We already talked a little bit about Montreal versus Winnipeg, as it was the game that Scheifele knocked out Jake
Evans. Yeah, you keep wanting to say Jake Avery.
I do. I don't know why. Either way, Montreal wins game 1 in Winnipeg. I don't know why I say Winnipeg 1-0 here, but decisive win for them. Winnipeg pushed at the end, but Montreal rolled. They were up 2-0 at one point. They were the better team.
If you haven't seen, this might be goal of the playoffs. If you haven't seen Nick Suzuki's goal, he's like in traffic and he pulls a little tuck, like a Datsuk tuck, and then goes behind Hellebuyck and just like slips it. It's just unreal stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So we wait results from a hearing for Mark Scheifele, but game 2 will be Friday. We'll see if he's playing or not. If he is, expect him to have a difficult time out there.
Oh yeah, Brendan Gallagher said the league better take care of it, or we're gonna make his life miserable. Is his quote. So,
which is a good way to kind of be like, hey, if you want to protect your players, suspend this guy for the rest.
Yeah.
Of the
Even then, if he's suspended 2 games, you gotta expect game 4 he's gonna get the crap beat out of him. So it doesn't really matter.
He'll play again in this series. I'd be shocked if he doesn't.
Yeah, because he's not a repeat offender. But.
No. Right. All right, Colorado versus Vegas. Colorado leads 2-0. They rolled Vegas in game 1, 7-1. Lehner starts after Fleury starts 7 games in the series before and gets a little bit of a break before this game. He looked atrocious, and his stats say he was even worse than he looked. He was bad. Terrible, terrible decision. I mean, the day after your goalie gets announced as a Vezina finalist, you decide to not start him in the game 1 of the playoffs. The only thing I can think of is it's DeBoer still, right?
Yeah.
DeBoer is thinking we might need both of these guys eventually, so let's keep Leonard fresh.
Idiot.
That's a up 3-0 decision. That's not a game 1 decision against your rival, probably the best team in hockey.
You tied them in points. You know this team.
Yeah.
You know this team in and out. You played them 8 times. You need Marc-Andre Fleury. You need it. Because on the other side of the ice is another Vezina finalist in Grubauer, who's the reason, other than McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog, that they won the President's Trophy. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yep. Puzzling, to say the least.
The fun thing about this is that we didn't even talk about Colorado Vegas in the first round, like their respective series, because we knew it was going to be Colorado Vegas. I didn't expect Colorado to just absolutely dominate them, but I also didn't expect Lehner to be in net.
By the way, the West is the only division in which the top 2 teams made it out of the first round.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, and we talked about this before the pod. Vegas outplayed Colorado last night.
Yep.
But Grubauer stood on his freaking head.
Yeah, he did. Fleury played fine too. He let in one weird goal, but it was 5-hole. But the guy got his stick lifted when he shot. It was a changeup. And then, of course, the goal in overtime, Rantanen sniped him on glove side on the power play. Don't take a penalty in overtime. I mean, I think that's the moral of the story there.
That's rule 1.
Yeah.
Of overtime.
Yeah.
I do want to point out Riley Smith's backhand goal over Grubauer's glove was just stuff of. It was sick.
Okay. Game 3 is in Vegas on Friday. This should be a very, very good series. I expect Vegas to take 2 at home, to be honest with you. I think they take Game 3. If you're a betting man, that's a pretty good bet.
Yeah.
All right. Another series that's 2-0 is Carolina versus Tampa. Tampa won 2 very, very close games, 2-1 in both games, 1 and 2 in Carolina. And this is after Carolina went 23-5 in the regular season at home. Just an unbelievable home record. And they dropped 2 games to the Tampa Bay All-Stars.
Yeah.
Game 3 is in Tampa tonight in front of a full crowd. That is going to be extremely difficult for Carolina to claw back into this series after dropping 2 at home. I don't see it going more than 6 games.
The series is over.
Yeah.
It's frustrating too because Carolina's so good. They're so talented. They're so young. As much as it pains me to say this, I love Rob Brindamore as a coach, just because he's a player at heart. It's tough because Carolina would dominate the third period. Tampa would get a goal, and then Carolina would dominate the rest of the period and couldn't get it past Vasilevsky. I mean, game 2, Carolina, after it was 2-1, they had possession for like 8 minutes and couldn't get a goal.
Yeah. Matt, at what point do we crown Vasilevsky the greatest hockey player on the planet? He has to be close.
He is. To be a Vezina finalist 4 years in a row is, I mean, that's unheard of in any sport, to be a finalist for an award 4 years in a row.
And he won't win the Vezina this year, but it's voter fatigue because he is the best player in hockey. It's him, McDavid, and Crosby. Well, I won't go that far. I'm saying it's him and McDavid, and I don't think there's any other argument. Although people won't recognize him as part of that list. But he absolutely deserves to be up there.
Yeah, it's unreal.
I think if you include Crosby, you have to include like 6 or 7 other guys. So I don't want to go that far. I think it's McDavid, Vasilevsky, and everyone else.
Yeah, I don't want to like compare him to like LeBron because he's not like.
Right.
You could
6
though.
years into his career. Yeah.
You could though. I mean, he's just so dominant. He's like 27. I mean, it's unbelievable. The career. He's already a Hall of Famer. The career this guy's had. It's unbelievable.
Tampa moved on from Ben Bishop for him, and everyone's like, what are they doing? He had 1 good playoffs when Ben Bishop was hurt, and they've decided to let go of their franchise goalie. And little did we know they found potentially one of the best goalies of all time.
Little did we know they made 4 Eastern Conferences out of the 5 years he's been starting.
Right.
I mean, what?
And Ben Bishop has been hurt at least once every single year since then.
Although Ben Bishop did make the finals last year, so against them, and then they didn't. And then he was hurt.
Right.
It was Hudon.
Yeah.
Yeah, this series is over, unfortunately. I want Carolina to claw back in it, but full arena against an all-star team that's $18 million over cap. I mean, it's over. It's over.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's get to your series, and then we'll call it a day.
Series is the East Division Finals. The Bruins versus the Islanders. The Bruins rolled in game 1. I was at the game with my brother and dad. Greatest game I've ever been to. Highly recommend going to any event that is full capacity at this point.
I was driving across the country.
If you feel safe, yeah, because it's worth the price of admission before the game starts. You're just like with everybody, like everyone's so happy to be there. It's like a faith in humanity moment.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like you're celebrating the end of COVID. And then they win 5-2 and Pasta gets a hat trick. It was like a dream night.
It was insane to me because I didn't know. I hadn't talked to Christian in like a week. Yeah. I texted him. I'm driving across the country, and I text him and I go, dude, the atmosphere is crazy. And he's like, I know, I'm here. And I was like, what? You're at the game?
This is what has happened. We were supposed to go. It's Memorial Day weekend. We're supposed to go to New York, to Long Island, to hang out with my family, but it's going to rain all weekend. So it's like, why are we going to go and just sit in the rain? Like, we're just going to stay home. And then we're home and we're like, we should go to the game. And it was just that quickly that we decided it. We bought the tickets and that was it.
Like the hell of a game to go to. That was I mean, Pasta just played he was by far the best player on the ice.
He was due for goals too when he pots 3 in a game.
Although McKinnon has 8 goals in 5 games in the playoffs. See, that's the difference because we talk about McKinnon in the same He's at the same dinner table as McDavid.
Yeah, right.
That's what you need in McDavid. You need 8 goals in 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, Edmonton's screwed. They don't have the same. They don't have the fourth line scoring. Colorado does.
It's true.
I mean, when Brandon Saad and Tyson Jost are scoring goals, I mean,
right. And you're counting on that to win games.
yeah.
Right.
So anyway, back to Bruins Isles. It's gonna be a tight series. I think it goes 7. If Varlamov starts tonight and they can squeak out a win, the Bruins are gonna be in a tough spot.
They're gonna have to ride him, yeah. But yeah,
Because
it's tough to be confident against either one of these goalies right now.
Nassau, I think, is like
Well, they can only seat,
85%.
Yeah, they can only seat 13,000 in there, so it's already a packed arena, like super loud, tin roof. They always talk about.
You're literally like.
I mean, it's a dump. It's a dump, but the fans are on top of the ice. So
players
it's
literally say that they're playing. It's like a soccer stadium where the fans are. But yeah, I think it's like 12,000 out of 14,000 are allowed.
Like that, yeah.
But even then, I mean,
it's the same. Baby. It's
if
gonna
they
be
can,
loud. It's gonna
if
be
the
awesome.
Bruins can steal a game tonight, they got the series. I mean, to silence the crowd.
I agree with you. Tonight is a huge. We're gonna find out tonight who the better team in this series is.
Yeah.
So, that doesn't mean the better team is gonna win, but whatever. Who knows? This is a great game. It's going to be a great series. Probably the best one, if we're being honest. Because
we said that about Caps, Bruins, but
yeah, right. We did say that, and then Bruins won 4 in a row. So,
except you guys won game 1. We won game 1.
No, you won game 1.
That's what I'm saying.
We did it this time. Yeah, okay.
So the Isles are going to gentleman sweep.
Oh, that is not funny. Okay, that's all we got for today. This is a fun episode. The playoffs are the best. NHL playoffs are the best.
Yeah, NHL playoffs are going on. It's 102 in Arizona. I hate my life. It's so hot. Phoenix, get it done tonight.
Go Suns.
Go Suns.
Go
Bro, I'll text you later. Love you. Thanks for listening, guys. Peace.